Welcome back to BuddhaNexus, part 2. I'm going to show you today a few other views of what you can do with this database. So let's go to the Pali database again and let's choose another text for now. Let's do the Dhammapada. There we are. So this is a text that consists of verses. So let's first make our screen a bit bigger and set our filters. Now, what do we want to see and what do we not want to see? I think I'll set a minimum match length a little bit lower because these are verses, so the verse lines are a bit smaller. And I don't want to see the commentaries here, so that changes our picture a little bit. Now there's one thing that has appeared here which you didn't see in the previous video, and that is this box here that says Sutta. Now that only appears in the Pali for the Dhammapada and for the Anguttara Nikaya and the Samyutta Nikaya. The reason is that these are files where there is a lot of or several numbers of suttas grouped together. So in the Dhammapada, that's the verse numbers. So we can, for instance, go to verse, what shall we do? 396. So then it scrolls down to verse 396, and you can do the same thing for the Anguttara Nikaya and the Samyutta Nikaya. Now the same thing happens for the Tibetan text, where you can scroll to a folio number within a file, and for the Chinese texts. Now if I click on one of these, I'll click here, it comes up with this text, the Sutta Nipata number 3.9. Now if I hover over this, you see like there's a whole lot of text that seems to, so very long parallels. There's many verses that are the same to that. So if I want to look at that in the table view, let's have a look at the table view. Now the table view is practically the same as the text view, apart from that it's more split out. So instead of having everything on top of each other in some kind of heat map, you have every parallel or every match split out here. What we have here, what we're looking at, the file name again is still the same. Again, you can go to Sutta Central, information button, and here the various parallels, and you can also open the text, display the text in a new tab in text view mode on that spot. So if you're at Dhammapada for verse 300, it will open that at verse 300. And the same here. So same here, you can also open this again. If you hover over the name, then, or over the number, you get the name. And again, it shows you the score and the length. Now, one thing that's new here is this sorting method. You didn't have that in any of the other modes, and let's see what that does. So you can sort the table by position in the inquiry text, so that's the Dhammapada, or position in the hit text, which is the ones on the right hand side, or by length of match. So let's just do that. And here we are. So there's that very long parallel that we just looked at in a text view mode. And you can see a few interesting features about this. First of all, the score is 63%, so it's not 100%. So it's not 100% match. And the length is smaller. So now let's have a look at why that is. Now let's look at the first verse. And that is exactly the same as this first verse. But now what happens here is that you get this word in between, and that's a header. There's a header in between verses, and you have this everywhere in the Dhammapada text, and it doesn't appear in the Samyutta Sutta Nipata. So that is something that this network is very good at picking up, is that there is like the text is actually the same, but there is these headers or maybe extra words like the word Bante, something like that in between, and it can pick that up and it still shows that as the same. Even though the score is not 100% and the length is not the same, it still shows us that like this is a full parallel. Now if I go to the next view, that's the numbers view. The numbers view is only available for Pali and Chinese. The reason is that these are the only languages where the segment numbers actually make sense in a larger whole. So for Pali, the segment numbers are the PTS numbers. And for the Chinese, they are the Taisho numbers. So then it becomes easy to compare and say like, oh, look, this is a parallel to that. So in case of the Dhammapada, this is very easy to see as well. Here we have the Dhammapada verse numbers and the line. So we have Dhammapada 1, so first verse, and line number 1. And if we just go down, we can see a little bit more. So for instance, Dhammapada 3, the third verse in the Dhammapada, has a match in Majjhima Nikaya 128 in the Upakilesa Sutta, as well as in the Jatikas here, and in the Kandakas. So this numbers view is something that can give a very quick overview of these numbers, and you can also go to the same place in again in Sutta Central. So if you want to know, okay, what is this Majjhima Nikaya 128 and in this Upakilesa Sutta, again it opens that in Sutta Central and it highlights this passage. Now the next view is the graph view. Now you will notice that my filter menu has changed here. The first 3 filters are still the same, but the include and exclude filters have changed a bit. So I'll have to set that again. So let's remove that, or only include the ones I want. So it's all these, and we get a bit of a different picture. So what is this? Like here you have again the same heading with the number or the name, the Sutta Central link, and information. And let's look at that information. So what it says is that the pie chart displays the distribution of all the matches found with the current filters across the various collections and their subsections. The distribution is weighted by length of matches found. So it is not this pie chart does not show the number of matches with a different with a certain collection. It shows the actual length of. So the most amount of matches, or the largest length, is to be found in the Theragatha. And if we want to look a bit more deeper into this, there is another chart. This is a histogram chart. And this shows the top 50 files that have the most matches with the Dhammapada. And if I hover over that, it will tell me which ones that are. So the ones with the most matches, or the largest length of matches, is the Vaseta Sutta in the Sutta Nipata, which we just been looking at. And the second one is in Aneti, and then it's the Majjhima Nikaya 98, the Vaseta Sutta, and the Vaseta Sutta. And so we can analyze this and see where most matches appear. Okay, so that's it for all the views that are in the database menu. Now I have to exit full screen mode, and I want to show you the visual charts next. The visual chart is a Sankey graph that displays all matches between the collections. So let's dive straight in and go to Pali again. So here we can choose the inquiry collection. So let's just do the first 4 Nikayas. I can make this screen a little bit bigger in a bit as well, and this is an info button like everywhere else. So the hit collections is now, well, what do I want to see? Well, maybe let's have a look at Abhidhamma, something different again. Okay, let's make this a bit bigger. Okay, so here we have on the left hand side the 4 Nikayas, and on the right hand side all the, and I can hover over it, all the Abhidhamma collections. And if I click on one, it shows the matches between that one and all the 4 Nikayas. And I can also change the color scheme here. Right now it's a gradient scheme. I can do inquiry collection and look at the same thing, so you can see the difference, or you can see hit collection, and then it looks like that. So you can do whatever you feel is most useful for you. I prefer gradient. And if I hover over one of these, it will tell me that between the Digha Nikaya and the Dhammasangani, there the weight is 21. Now that in itself doesn't say very much, but it is a weighted length, like with the graphs that we saw earlier. It's about the length of the matches between these two collections, and then it's weighted in order to fit it in. So it's scaled down to fit it in a graph. So you can see the difference between, for instance, this one and this one, which is far more smaller, with there's far less amount of match length. So what I can do is I can go to a collection here on the left side and open it up and see a bit more detail. Now it looks a bit like a spaghetti at the moment. I'll just move this down a little bit so I can see all of it. So we have 7 pages here because the Majjhima Nikaya is obviously 152 suttas, so it doesn't all fit on one page. So I can move to another one and see that one as well. But what's more interesting is I can open up one. So let's do the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, and then it shows you all that there's all these matches between the various Abhidhamma collections. And clicking on that one again, it opens that one up in text view mode. So then I can start to analyze that. It's like what is actually going on here, like limit this to the collection of, where am I? The Abhidhamma, and look for instance in numbers view, and then it shows me in which collections there are matches. And one thing that stands out here immediately is there's VB7, that happens quite a lot, and that's the Satipatthana Vibhanga. So in this way you can just start to analyze texts in different ways using different tools. So that's it from me. If you have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you. So you can either put them in the comment box below, or write to us by email, which is on the contact page, or yeah, just write in Sutta Central to at Vimala, and then I will be able to pick that up.